Welcome to Roofing Road Trips, the podcast that takes you on a thrilling journey across the world of roofing. From fascinating interviews with roofing experts to on-the-road adventures, we'll uncover the stories, innovations, and challenges that shape the rooftops over our heads. So fasten your seatbelts and join us as we embark on this exciting roofing road trip.
Hello, and welcome to another Roofing Road Trips from Roofer's Coffee Shop. My name is Heidi Ellsworth, and today we're going to talk about something that everyone needs every day in roofing, and especially as we go into 2025, and that is lead generation. And you know, lead gen has changed a lot over the years. I mean, from when I started way back and it was the yellow pages to today when SEO and social media and so many other Google ads rule. So we wanted to bring in an expert who could really talk to us about not just those things I just mentioned, but what's new. What are some of the mentality around lead gen that's changing as we look into this new year? So I am thrilled to have my friend Pam Torrey from Engage back with us again. Hello, Pam.
Hey, Heidi.
It's so good to see you. I love our conversations, some of the best marketing conversations around.
Excited to be here today. We love chatting with you guys.
I know, we always have so much fun. So let's start with an introduction. If you could introduce yourself and tell us about your company.
Yeah, so hi, everybody. I am Pam Torrey. I'm the Director of Marketing at Engage. I have been here for just over 5 years. My 5-year anniversary was last week.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. Prior to working at Engage, I did marketing, lead generation, and event management for a fintech company based in Chicago. Before that, I was at Apple for several years doing B2B sales, mostly focused in the tech industry. But fun fact, I actually have 0 degrees in marketing, business, or sales or anything. I actually have a Bachelor of Music and a Master of Music in vocal performance with an emphasis on opera and 19th century German lieder. So very useful in the world as a whole. But what I have actually found is a lot of transferable skills from the performance world to my current job. And for those of you who don't know Engage, we are the industry-leading sales enablement presentation platform for home improvement and home services. So we help you to create dynamic, interactive, engaging content, leveraging things like interactivity, compare sliders, native video. We help you to share it out with everyone who needs it through our cloud-based platform, ensuring that everybody always has the latest version. And then on the back end, we help you to measure the impact of your content and coach every rep to be your best rep with rich analytics. And we have great relationships with folks like Roofer's Coffee Shop in this industry, as well as with over 50 building product manufacturers to provide their contractors with the content they need to close more deals.
That is awesome. I love it. I love Engage. I see it has just been a game changer for contractors and how they present closing deals, data. Mm-hmm. But today, let's talk lead gen.
Yes,
so
the hot
I would
topic.
just like to pick your brain about what you're seeing as the biggest challenges around lead generation for the roofing contractors.
Yeah, so the elephant in the room is the cost of leads. I mean, inflation has hit every aspect of our lives. Lead generation is absolutely no exception because all of the platforms that you generate leads on have to pay their people. They all have to pay for various services. Everything is just more expensive. So, I mean, that is the one that everybody talks about. So cost of leads is out there. But I actually want to talk about the challenge that this industry is facing due to consolidation and the introduction of private equity into our space. So I think everyone has noticed that there has been a lot of private equity money floating around in the home improvement industry and specifically in exterior remodeling. I think exteriors have really been hit by this harder than everybody else.
Yes.
And you see private equity firms snapping up some of the big players in the industry. You're also seeing some of our larger companies, some of our larger independent remodelers choosing to go the route of acquisition. They are choosing to acquire smaller businesses in their area or in different markets rather than building from scratch in those markets, in those different regions. And so every roofer is now going up against private equity firms, large consolidated companies that have a lot of cash to burn when it comes to lead generation and brand awareness. And it's making it harder to get leads. It's making it more expensive to get leads. it is also making it more challenging to be able to convert those leads because you're going up against a really recognizable brand that probably has lots of TV ads. They are on the radio, their print stuff is everywhere. They're all over social. People recognize a lot of those brands. So it's gotten harder to be able to not only generate the leads, not only afford the leads, but close the leads because of all of this consolidation that's hit the space.
That is so true. And you know what? We talk about acquisitions and consolidation all the time, but we haven't talked about that specifically around lead generation and just how that has upped the competition just from a money standpoint.
When you're going up against a private equity firm that has millions to burn, they've got millions of dollars they're investing into these companies, and you are an independent roofer who does, $5 to $8 million a year in revenue, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard. And we know very deeply that they are facing issues in the home with converting these leads because that's where our product sits. We are there to help every single remodeler make the most of each lead that they run, each appointment they run. But it's really impacting them upstream as well.
Yeah, I can see that. So let's talk about that. I think one of the things, in fact, so Pam, your timing's perfect. I was just on another podcast with Reed Ribble, and he was talking about that, the smaller businesses do have some competitive advantages in the fact that they can move faster, they can be more personalized, they are more ingrained in the community. And so that personalization of your business into your community, personalization of lead gen is the next thing. I mean, it's been important, but it's the next thing. And I know you're an expert on that. Let's talk a little bit about that, about, lead gen personalization and how to really connect with your community.
Yeah. So I think the statistic that we need to think about here is that 80% of customers feel like brands do not understand them. So that's what you're dealing with as a business in this industry, trying to generate and close leads, is that 80% of your customers feel like brands do not understand them. So you have a big opportunity there to be a brand that does understand your customer. So as Heidi, as you were saying, that local connection, if you have been in your community for a long time, you understand your customer in a way that a large consolidated company doesn't. You may have done work for their family members in the past. You've maybe done work for people in their neighborhood in the past. You are not new to the space. Maybe you've sponsored their kids' t-ball team. You have community connections that everybody else does not have in the market. But the thing that we need to remember when we're talking about personalizing the lead generation process is that most homeowners have never purchased a roof before. Especially in this market, most home improvement projects right now are being purchased by homeowners under 45. There is a large market of people who are doing, remodels who are older, who've done it before. There still is a substantial chunk of the market doing that. But you have a lot of people who bought homes during the really low interest rates of the late teens, early 20s in our market. Maybe they bought a house in 2019 to 2021 and they've got under 3% interest rate. They're not leaving that house anytime soon. They're not getting out of that house. Or You've got people who are buying a house now, and because interest rates are higher and the cost of everything is higher, they bought a fixer-upper. They bought something that needs some work done to it, and they've never done that before. It's a new thing. We have to remember when we start talking to a lead or connecting with a lead, that they probably don't do this every day. We do it every day. We talk about roofing every day. We talk about the kinds of products that we sell, the installation process. We do that every day, but they don't. And so as we are in the sales process and the lead generation process with the homeowner, it's so important to pay attention to the content they're engaging with on your website. Know the social media ads they're engaging with, the social media content they're engaging with. And then when you reach out to that homeowner, have that information available, whether it's your call center that needs to have that information available. If you do other different types of contact with the customer, whether it's text message or email, maybe include something that is related to the content that they already engaged with. And then please, 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 when your sales rep runs that lead, they need to make sure that they listen. They repeat back to the homeowner their concerns and their issues, and then they customize that presentation experience to them so that they feel like you as a brand were paying attention to them the entire time. And if they feel like they're heard, they are more likely to buy. Customers are more likely to buy from a company that makes them feel understood or that provides a superior level of experience for them than just from the cheapest option.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about that. And so I'm thinking about, you've run a social media post on a solar roof.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. They click on it. They want more information. They actually fill it out. And so that making sure that the team, the call center, the front receptionist, the salespeople understand where that lead came from, that it actually came from a solar post so that they can include it. So that takes a little bit of process and systems to put in place, but I can see where they'd be hugely, that makes all the difference. For me as a consumer, I'm like, wow, they know what they're talking about. What's going on?
Well, yes, our brains have been melted by the algorithm. Like I say this all the time, people have no attention span and they're so used to having a completely personal experience online that if you don't provide that for them during a buying process, you are not enabling the buyer to get to yes. You are not helping them to say yes to you. So like Heidi, the example you just gave about a solar roof versus a more traditional roofing project. If the homeowner expressed interest in solar roofing materials, why would you go into the home prep to present something else? Or why would you spend time presenting something else? First of all, solar is going to get you a better ticket. Secondly, solar probably has tax associations with it in your area. There may be benefits for the homeowner that you need to spend time on if that's the route they're going to go. There are so many things you can do to personalize the experience from that initial point of contact. And I will say, yes, it does take some time to set up these processes. But if you have a good marketing automation tool, if you have good marketing automation software, you can do all of this. And marketing automation software is not that expensive and it's 100% worth it. You can get a tool like HubSpot to plug into whatever CRM you're using. I know some of our industry CRMs have marketing automation functionality built into them. There are lots of other email tools on the market that you can use. It's worth investing the time, and you don't have to have a million individual campaigns. All you need to do is know, like, what product ad did they click on?
Right.
What piece of, what was the theme of the content they clicked on? And that should guide your journey.
And that should get it through there. So when you're talking about, obviously, marketing automation, CRMs, putting all that together, there's also people, obviously, on a local level, contractors are still doing offline marketing too. They are,
Absolutely.
How did you hear me? Oh, I see your trucks everywhere. Those kind of things. But also, we just had a great conversation on our coffee conversations from a contractor who said her number one lead gen is giving back, donating, being parts of the charitable community and then the referrals that come from that. So again, understanding that those bringing in, what are you seeing how customer behavior is differing online and offline? Kind of, what are you seeing there?
Yeah. So first of all, yes, everybody should be doing everything all at once. You should be doing all of the kinds of lead gen. I've actually been having a lot of conversations about this in our business. And I am honestly, I'm a little bit more excited about some of the offline options right now. I'm more excited about the human interaction because it builds credibility and it builds trust faster than your online content does.
Yes.
But when you're looking at an online lead is like, I'm going to use some marketing terminology. That's an inbound lead. That is somebody who was looking for you. Mm-hmm. They did something to indicate that they need a roof. And so those leads are often a little bit easier to close because they come in as somebody who said, I was Googling for a roof. They probably read a ton of your reviews. They spent time on your website. Maybe they were on your social media. They are generally a little bit more educated on your company, the products you sell in the process, because they've spent time with your content. If you have a great website, this is where that return on investment comes in. They've spent time with your content. They're more sure about buying from you. An offline lead, depending on how you sourced it, can often be a little harder to close because if you're sourcing them through home shows or through canvassing, they don't have that information about you. The information they have is the feeling they got from speaking with your rep, whether that was a door-to-door canvasser or somebody at the home show. That's why they said yes. It was that human connection. It wasn't necessarily because they researched your company a ton. And if you have community leads, like you were talking about, Heidi, I think that's a completely different can of worms, because that person who's coming to you, who said, I saw you sponsored my kid's softball team, or I saw you at this, you sponsored a 5K fun run or the turkey trot, you sponsored our upcoming, community event. They already know and like you because you're in their community. Your job is to get them to trust you with their home.
Yeah.
And so it's just a different can of worms. So I think, again, as we're looking at personalization in the process, as we're looking at how we tackle these leads during the actual sales appointment, it is so important to know this information going in. If your sales rep knows, okay, this lead was sourced through canvassing, they're probably going to have to do a lot more work to build the value of your company before they even dig into the products. If they know that it was a referral from a happy customer, that's a little bit of an easier sale because they already know and like you. Now they just have to trust you. Like it's just different.
And, it's interesting because as you talk about that too, the quality of leads has evolved. They've changed. And I think it goes back to what you said earlier. Those inbound ones who have done their research, they've gone to Roofer's Coffee Shop or Ask a Roofer, and they've actually read about the products. They've found the contractors. And that's an evolution of they know what they want and you just need to really be listening. What are some of the other things some of the other ways that you have seen leads evolve over from back in the Yellow Page days? A lot.
Yeah. Well, leads are more educated at this point in time. I mean, there's so much information available on the internet that in a recent study, it was shown that over 50% of the buying process happens before a sales rep even speaks to the customer. Customers are spending a lot of time researching you, your products, and your reviews. I mean, most customers read over 10 reviews before they reach out to a company, and they want new reviews. So they're only reading things from the last couple of months. They don't want to see jobs that you did, 6 months ago because they don't think it applies to them anymore. Right. And so as we're getting customers in the funnel who come from these digital channels, who come from the web, who come from referral processes, they know more information now than they have ever known before. But this does present one challenge, and that is that sometimes their information is very, very wrong. Because again, we remember customers don't buy roofs every day. They don't necessarily know the specific challenges they're going to run into with their home or the environment they live in. Maybe they don't know that they have a problem with damp. Maybe they don't understand that like the specific shingle that they were looking at because they love the color would absolutely not work on their home because of the environment they live in. So we both have a more educated customer, but we also have a customer who doesn't really understand the nuance necessarily of their actual home and maybe comes in with misinformation or incorrect assumptions about what can be done on their project. And so as a sales rep, it's really your job to figure out how to suss out what they came in knowing and then figure out how to address the specific pain points you're going to need to in order to close the lead. And so it's just something, again, to be aware of and to think about as you are involved in lead gen. And as far as sales training goes, it's something to add to your sales training process is how within your discovery, within your needs assessment, or maybe within your call center process, how do you suss out what the homeowner already knows and what the homeowner expects out of the interaction? And then how do you set correct expectations for their project?
That is so, wow. That's great. And really, I hadn't even thought about that, Pam, that I always thought, it's better to have an educated and somebody who's done their research. But if they've done the research for something that doesn't work where they live, then now you're starting over again with really explaining it. And I think that's where the value of the local contractor really comes in, right?
Absolutely.
So you have to establish that trust for your company first so that you can have then those conversations.
Yeah. And on top of that, we've seen a lot of this with pricing. It is part of why price conditioning has become just such an essential part of the sales training process. And it's why a lot of people are including price conditioning content in their lead generation. They have information on their website to condition. They have information in the lead up to the appointment to condition because, again, inflation's hit everything.
Right.
And some of these folks have come in and they're like, oh, my dad had a roof replaced 7 years ago and it only cost this much money. Okay, well, that was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
A lot has happened since
A lot
then.
has changed.
I think if you drop somebody from 7 years ago into today, they'd be like, what on earth happened to all of you? Prices are different. Things are different. Processes are different. Things cost different amounts. And so we find, especially when it comes to price, that leads may have some information, but it just might not be correct. Again, it's a really good idea to ask some of these questions upfront to find out, what do you know? What do you expect? And, how can you start resetting expectations early on in the process?
Yeah. And that seems that's a big part too of maximizing the potential of every lead. So I'd love for you to share some nuggets, some advice, some strategy on how contractors can be maximizing the potential of every lead, because we know it costs money. No matter how you're getting it, it takes time and money to get that. So how do you maximize it?
Most definitely. The first thing I'm going to start with is a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, and it is speed to lead. You need to be on that lead as soon as possible because people will generally go with one of the first options that's put in front of their face. I joke about this. When I was buying my condo a few years back, I bought the second place I saw. And I don't know if it's because it was the absolute perfect place for me or if it was because it was like the first place I saw that really, spoke to me.
Yeah.
But people tend to buy something pretty early on in the process. They want whoever's going to talk to them first, whoever's going to reach out to them first. And so again, this is where your marketing automation software comes into play. You need to be reaching out to them as soon as possible. If you don't have a call center, which I know a lot of our roofers don't. They're smaller businesses. They can't afford to have a full call center on staff. That's okay. You still need to be reaching out to them quickly, whether that's through a contracted call center or whether it's through email or texting automation. We have a lot of options today. A lot of homeowners also don't want to be called. I do not want to be called. Do not call me. If you have an option where I can book an appointment through texting, I will take it every single time. So get on those leads and communicate with them the way that they want to be communicated with. And my second point would be visuals, visuals, visuals. If you can get that homeowner's phone number or that homeowner's email early on in the process, you can send them visual content. So 90% of the info transmitted to the brain is visual. Most people are visual learners. They don't have eidetic memories when it comes to text. They need a graphic, they need pictures, they want to see your work and see your business visually. So if you can text them photos of your projects, if you can text them the link to your Engage presentation with information that can prep them for their appointment, if you can email them a beautiful email that tells them what to expect from their appointment with lots of visuals and graphics and things to help them understand, you're going to be ahead of the game. It's going to help you to get the most out of that lead if you can really connect with them through visuals from the start.
Yeah. That's great advice. That's great advice. Okay. Speaking of visuals, that leads us right into my next question that I wanted to ask. And that is, you have a new feature, it's profile pages. And I would love for you to talk about that.
Yeah. So I started with Engage just over 5 years ago, and this has been the number one requested feature for 5 years. So I am thrilled that we were finally able to come up with a way to roll this out to our customer base that does not require like coding skill or any kind of technical prowess. All it requires is that you know how to input information into some fields and upload a document, which every roofer on here listening has done because you have Google pages, you have a Yelp page, you have an Angie page, you have a Roofer's Coffee Shop listing, you have a Facebook page. You know how to do all of this already. So it doesn't require any skill beyond the things that you have already done. So what profile pages do is they allow you to create custom content for your company, your various teams in Engage, or your users, all from a single presentation. So you would have one presentation that would then have specific elements that swap out based on the user profile of the person who is presenting that content. And the specific elements can be set at the company level. So like your logo or your website, specific things that are company-wide. It could be at the team level, which often coincides with multiple locations. So if you have, like, let's say that you are in the DMV area and you have locations in Maryland, DC, and Northern Virginia, you're probably going to want those images to look different because a row home in DC or a house in the Baltimore area looks really different from a suburban home in Northern Virginia. You probably want your images to look a little different. That's a use case there. Or it can be on the user level. We have a lot of customers who love to have a bio page for their sales rep. Again, to personalize that experience, to connect with the homeowner. This way, you only have to make one rep page in your presentation, and it will just automatically update based on who's logged into Engage and who is presenting.
Nice.
Yeah. So some of those use cases, like I said, the multiple locations is huge. This is great for images or insurance certificates. Again, we know the permitting process is very different in a city versus out in a rural or exurban area. You may want to have different documents uploaded for that. We know sales reps, you want to have that information. But another use case that's really interesting to us is demographics. So if you serve a market that has very different styles of homes, you may want to have multiple teams that speak to those homes. So for example, I live in Chicago. I live in the city on the far north side. And in my area, we have kind of a bifurcated set of buildings of the older homes. Older homes in this area are either Victorian era, they were built prior to 1930, or they are mid-century and they were built just post World War II. That's the bulk of the single family homes in my area. Now, if I live in a house that was built in 1918 that has gorgeous Victorian scroll work and architecture and, has all of those details, I probably want to see images in my sales presentation that relate to the type of home I live in versus a mid-century home that has incredibly different architecture. The roof is laid out differently. Like everything looks really different on that home versus something like mine. And so if you're in an area that has that sort of real line of demarcation between the styles of homes, it could be a really useful tool for you to ensure that the images you're showing that homeowner align with the style of home they live in.
That is brilliant. That is so cool. And to know that and to be able to program that ahead of time so that you this is where we're going. Because of course, if I have this beautiful Victorian house, I'm going to want to see other Victorian houses. I want to see what kind of shingles are on them or slate or whatever it may be.
Yep.
And now as a consumer, I feel like they know me. They care.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, we hear all the time that people, serve multiple demographics. There are a lot of really diverse markets in this country, not only the individual human demographics, but the home styles. Yeah. There are a lot of cities that have neighborhoods that were built in a really specific time. Like my mom's neighborhood, my mom lives in Northeast Ohio. Her neighborhood was almost entirely constructed just post World War II. So again, mid-century homes. But my mom's house was built in the 1920s. It was the original farmhouse of the neighborhood.
Cool.
And so again, if you're going to be walking into my mom's home to present versus one of her neighbors, you probably want to have slightly different visuals. And there are enough homes in my mom's area that were built prior to the Second World War that it would behoove the contractors in her area to have some content that would visually support those sales interactions versus all the houses that do look really similar. All the other houses are built from the same model. They all look really, really similar. It makes sense to bifurcate that information.
So as you're thinking about this too, when you think about the tech stack, right? I know Engage is very active in Owens Corning tech stacks and a lot with all the manufacturers. And so to be able to have, first of all, have that tech stack of getting the aerial report with the picture on it. So what kind of style of home it is, having that up front, and then preparing your presentation through that as you're going along, that makes such great sense. And to be able to do it, explain just a little bit. I mean, is it just a touch of a button or something that's programmed in ahead? How do the contractors do this? Because this is really cool.
So it's actually the administrator of the account who sets all of this up. So the actual sales rep just needs to know what they're doing. They just need to know what they're presenting that day. And so let's say that I'm a sales rep, I'm selling on the north side of Chicago and I do exclusively roofing. We're a roofing contractor and I want to make sure that I'm presenting the right presentation. My admin is going to go in and set up a couple of different teams within Engage. They're going to have one team that is mid-century homes, one team that is Victorian homes, and one team that's new construction. We do have a lot of new construction here. Not the biggest fan of it, but I like my vintage homes, my condos from the 1920s. I'm a vintage girl. So you're going to have those three options available to you. So I'm the sales rep. I pull up my appointment. And because my company uses other technology, because we use, other services out there, I know what neighborhood the home is, and I know a little bit about it because I have those aerial shots. I can then make sure that when I walk up to that house, I click on the appropriate team to present the content. And so my company story presentation will be specific to their type of home. So my company story is the same, but the visuals that support it are not. They are specific to that type of home. And same thing for the actual sales rep. My presentation, because my user profile is set up, is going to have my picture, my name, my bio in it, versus if my colleague was presenting, it would have his information on that page. But the admin would only have to create one page because Engage knows who's logged in. We have your profile information. We know what team you're presenting on. We know what company you're with. That will automatically populate in the page for you.
That's spectacular. So really, I want to kind of summarize this because, we started out with the lead gen, how expensive that can be and how important it is to impress and close. This is the circle. I mean, from the point of really understanding the lead, what they're looking for, being able to pick the right team, the right profile to do the right presentation, and then to be able to close. Pam, you guys are brilliant. Just saying, that is awesome. Very cool.
Well, thank you. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. Well, I think it is exactly what contractors need going into 2025. And I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for this podcast. I've learned a lot. And I know a lot of people out there will be using that in the next year. And so let's let everybody know how they can get involved, get in touch with you, but also get started with Engage. And maybe just a little bit on the training that goes along with that to help those admins, to help people get all this set up in time for the new sales season.
Yeah. So if you're curious about learning more about Engage, you can head to our Roofers Coffee Shop listing. We are on the Roofers Coffee Shop site. You can also go to engage.io/demo. That's ingage.io/demo. And that will get you to our sales team. And we have a comprehensive onboarding process. We've actually recently revamped this process. We did a total overhaul earlier this year because we listened to our customers and our customers said we need more. They said, we need more training. We need more design help. We need more time with your team to really feel fluent in the product. And so we listened and we overhauled it. So there's a very comprehensive training process now that ensures that the administrators are trained. Anyone who's creating content is really trained, and that you know how to get your team using the platform. You know how to talk to them about it. And then for folks who don't want to create their content, maybe you are a roofer who doesn't have an internal marketing resource. You got a sales manager, but you don't have somebody who's visually creative. We have people that can help you out with that. We have a team of designers who can take care of creating the content for you. It is part of an additional charge into the package, but it's going to depend on what you need.
Yeah.
And the sales team would be able to suss that out and help you, because we understand that you are the expert in roofing. You are not necessarily the expert in creating sales content. That's what we're here for. We are the experts. And so we can help you out there. And no one ever has to start from scratch on Engage either. We have a full marketplace full of content to help you get started. We also work with tons of roofing manufacturers. I know Heidi mentioned Owens Corning. We've had a long-term relationship with them. They have gorgeous content on our platform. We work with many of the other shingle manufacturers, metal roofing manufacturers. If you do siding, windows, doors, decks, outdoor living, if you're in the upper Midwest, Northeast, and Pacific Northwest, and you do bathrooms during the winter because nobody wants to put on a roof in February, we also have a lot of the bathroom manufacturers, so we can help you out there as well.
Wow. Excellent. Well, Pam, thank you so much. And this is the perfect thing. I can't wait for contractors to hear this and really start implementing some of this. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for listening. What great information. Please check out the Engage directory on Roofers Coffee Shop. You can get all this information. And this is the kind of stuff that you can put into place for next year and really take your sales presentations and your closing rates to where you want them to be. So please also check out all of our podcasts under the RLW navigation under Roofing Road Trips, or on your favorite podcast channel. Please subscribe and set those notifications so you don't miss a single episode. We'll be seeing you next time on Roofing Road Trips.
If you've enjoyed the ride, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join us on every roofing adventure. Make sure to visit rooferscoffeeshop.com to learn more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next Roofing Road Trip.